Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. It seems I have quite a bit of news today. Well, not quite a bit, but enough to kind of get you guys the drift for it. I probably only have 2 videos out today, maybe 3. Part of the reason why I'm also releasing only 3 videos a day as of recent right now is mostly due to, well, 2 things. 1, the mere fact that there is just not a lot of news happening. And 2, there is just the awesome fact that I am working on the other video, so I do need some time to work on that video as well. So when I'm not working on these videos, I am working behind the scenes on another one. So there you have it. Anywho, we seem to have that the New Orleans, at least the basketball game, or not basketball game, football game, seem to have a bit of break-ins, mass break-ins, and it seemed to be going all too great. Now, it seems like the New Orleans is having some massive problems here, starting with a bit of blackouts, and that doesn't seem to be good, and more blackouts as well. There wasn't just one blackout, there were 2. So I think the New Orleans is not necessarily doing too great in terms of the policies or whatever they're doing in order to keep the break-ins and whatever at low, or it seems like it's collapsing. Here we have is that James Gill, radicals wanted to fund the police. Here's one mayor who already has. While homicides and carjackings are way up, the New Orleans Police Department budget is way down. And since it is just a possible that there is a connection, this will hardly bolster the cause of defunding the police, which has some keen adherents elsewhere. The decision to take $16 million away from the cops this year was not inspired by Black Lives Matter. However, it was forced upon after COVID-19 knocked the economy sideways and depleted the municipal offers. I call BS, because I'm going to say that the $16 million has nothing to do with the COVID-19 epidemic. I think it has a lot to do with, honestly, Black Lives Matter. Because Black Lives Matter has gone around wanting to defund the police, etc., including multiple other organizations and groups wanting to defund the police as well. So I don't think this is a COVID-19 thing. So they can kind of say, I call BS on that one. Before that, the NOPD budget had not risen in several years. All the experts seem to agree that we need many more than 1,111 officers currently on the payroll to keep us safe. Well, all the experts that who are not a part of the defund the police, that is, everyone associated with that cause, was disappointed when the city council settled for $1 million, reducing the NOPD budget from $193.7 million to $107.8 million. Defunding the police is a somewhat routine concept. The most drastic proposals advanced by an outfit called Initiate Justice, for example, involve doing away with every conservative in the country and tearing down all the prisons. Anyone who believes that is the way to create the ideal society should be locked up. Such crackpot notions could get us all killed. And I agree with this. I don't think this whole ability to wanting to defund the police seems to really be the greatest thing that we want to do. It seems it's done a lot more damage, and it seems that it could be another quite issue. Now, I may believe that they need around 1,100, and they don't seem to be having anywhere near that amount of people wanting to be there. We have also this here is that New Orleans also police hire civilians to combat officer shortage. It goes on to say the New Orleans Police Department is reimagining policing and is getting creative with processes like hiring civilians and organizing patrol shifts to help with the force's staffing issues. No, I think the number one goal here, in order to solve a lot of these problems, is maybe not hiring civilians to deal with your inadequacy of staffing issues, but maybe hire police and maybe stop defunding the police. That might actually help. Perhaps that might actually prevent crime from happening, and maybe putting into actual policies, which, by the way, the Democrats don't want to seem to be doing, to criminalize criminals. But since the Democrats absolutely refuse to do that and want to not penalize criminals, which is also happening here in California, which is mostly in LA and San Francisco, the crime seems to go rampant, and people keep on wanting to vote these people in and saying that they're for the people, they care for the people, yet you see destruction upon destruction in these Democratic cities. Amazing, really. NOPD Superintendent Sean Ferguson said the average response time is currently 11 minutes. But with the help of civilians, the department can reduce that time. This is a tough fight that we must stay the course on, Ferguson said at a press conference Thursday. what are we going to be doing in the future is hiring civilians and police intake specialists. We're looking to hire 25 civilians so we can have around-the-clock staffing, telephone to take those reports, and around-the-clock staffing to monitor these online reports. Which is insane. I can't believe that their biggest idea was to do this. And another thing, too, as well, what we have is that meanwhile, pay raises for officers and $30,000 incentive payment for new hires are among the police policies announced in New Orleans. As city officials are seeking to reverse the steady loss of police officers, it has also calls for coverage of all health care costs for police officers and the revival of a take-home or care policy for officers. The leader said the 3-year plan has an estimated total cost of nearly $80 million. Officials said the Million program is aimed at recruiting 200 officers and it could be expanded. This week, the NYPD will graduate 18 new officers, and here are currently 12 recruits. Yeah, too bad to defund the police, and all the officers that did leave seems to have the damage has been done. So now we're going to go talking about exactly what's going on in these areas, specifically of what the officers really want to do, and the damage is what the city council has done and what their new possible ability is. Check this out.
Against criminal conduct and make regular patrols to address any issues.
It would apply to lots within a 10-block radius of the Superdome or Smoothie King Center and a 5-block radius from the Sanger Theater and Mardi Gras parade routes. And parking lots for cruises would need an attendant during the entire trip.
Yes, so their goal is to just hire superintendents, and which doesn't seem to be really the go-to. Now we're going to talk about or look at all the break-ins that's been happening recently in terms of the actual city and the issues that some of these people are facing right now.
Targeting people watching their teams play. This afternoon, multiple people got back from the Saints game to find their windows smashed. This is at a pay parking lot on South Rampart. A witness told us it looked like half a dozen cars had been broken into and one of them stolen.
To find their car windows smashed in. Dozens of cars were burglarized, including inside a garage where a security guard was on duty. He alerted police, who arrested 3 young men.
They went into a parking lot with an attendant who called the police. That's how they were caught.
Yeah, and so I don't think this is a necessarily good thing here. We have blackouts upon blackouts, and then we have people that are actively wanting to, not want to really do anything about it. I think the New Orleans has a huge, massive problem in terms of what's been going on there, and I don't think the New Orleans is necessarily safe, or any democratic city. I think most cities are not safe. Most places I would think they were deemed safer are honestly in rural areas. Yeah, sure, you don't have the police that can get to you at a quick enough time, but there's also significantly less crime there. So I think those places might be the more ideal places to be living at. Of course, not everybody has the ability, because sometimes there's not jobs that will be able to get you to make a living wage. But there seems to be more of these issues. Even though that they have potentially arrested at least 3 people, but they did more damage than good. Take a look at some of these clips on the people that were arrested and the one thing that the guy had to go through in order to deal with this.
Kickoff telling him some vandals had broken into his 2022 Kia Sorento.
They ripped out the ignition, a bunch of the wires and stuff, and they kept on trying and it didn't work, and they tried more and more, and they've ripped it up so much that we're going to get it towed, and it has to go to the dealership, and there's a lot of damage to it.
20-year-old Adolphus Wilson, 18-year-old Brian Zell Edgar, and a 17-year-old juvenile. They were booked on 3 counts of auto burglary and 2 counts of attempted auto theft. Wilson and the juvenile also face gun charges.
And there you have it, to where they pretty much made it to where the car was not actually movable or at all. They didn't try to steal anything. They tried to actually steal the car, which is what that one trend was going on to TikTok. So not only are they breaking in things and stealing stuff from inside the cars, they're also trying to steal cars as well. It's almost like no repercussions are happening to these people, and it's kind of vile and disgusting that it is. Now there's more issues to pertain here. First, I'll show you the video of the people being actually violent and with weapons, and then another man that seems to been from a small town has had to deal with this travesty, this type of chaos and mayhem. I think this is kind of a wake-up call, at least for him.
Trout is with Premium Parking. It was his garage where a security guard's call Sunday led to the arrests.
It was not a parking lot attendant. It was actually an armed security guard that we had in there. 2 days prior to that, that same armed security guard was chased out of that garage by 5 armed assailants.
Smaller town in Ohio. I leave my doors unlocked. It's not a big deal from where I'm from. So hearing about especially a rash of break-ins, yes, it's concerning, very concerning.
Even this guy here has seen, even when he's not around the city, he's concerned about the amount of break-ins that are happening in the city. So I think these folk that don't understand that don't really see it, or are kind of apolitical for the most part, are seeing the kind of danger and tragedies that's happening in these cities, and what democratic policies are really doing to these cities in general. And granted, not everything is perfect in Republican cities, I know that, but it's definitely at least significantly better than some of the cities that are being ran by these Democrats. In fact, I would say most of the cities that have most crime-driven are heavy Democratic. In fact, it goes down to makes me think that, well, if that's the case, then what do we do? Most of the cities or most states are actually controlled by Democratic policies. In fact, another thing as well is that a lot of the states turn to be kind of red for the most part. But when you make the cities, where it's a heavy convoluted area, well, they're all blue and they control the state. The only possible way is to pretty much separate the states from the actual cities themselves. And then I think you might actually have more of a fair kind of understanding of what's going on. Well, guys, that's it for the video. Like, subscribe, share, and hopefully we can be able to clean up this mess because it's not looking good, at least for those places. Take care.